on,
Yeah, doesn't work.
we'll open this meeting of December
Yeah,
10th,
there we go.
Thanks, Tony.
2015. Okay. Let the record show Selectman Scanlon is not present. He is on his way, however. So, you need to talk to us in non-public?
No, we just said we were gonna say happy birthday to Johnny.
Oh, we can sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Johnny. Happy birthday to you. All right, you can.
That's on camera now, Johnny.
Dante's turned red. He's bright red now. All right.
I'm trying to figure out why they.
That's pretty good. Silly.
Minutes of 11:05. The chief, Joe has to leave, so the chief has talk about encumbrance, so he may be here in about 10 minutes, so that Joe's present during the conversation, and John's present. So we can do the minutes. We also have to talk about Christmas week and New Year's week meetings.
Good lack thereof.
All right. Bring the minutes of November 5th for discussion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Sure.
On page 3, Tilton Recreation, check out the tree. I believe we ended up saying trees.
Right,
Where?
on the island.
Culture, under culture and recreation, pretty much the last line.
The trees, okay.
completed application, do we give the homeowners a copy of the flow ordinance? Trash flow ordinance?
I don't know, it's a good idea.
Can't expect them to bring it to the incinerator if we don't tell them that's where it has to go. I thought you knew it's not a defense if they don't bring it. Seems like we went through that, we put on,
Right.
I didn't know.
We did go through that.
On page 6, Conservation Commission, distribution for labor reform. It's a little more complicated than that paragraph. The check issued for labor, because it came out of the selectmen's budget, it was not approved by the Board of Selectmen. So it shouldn't have been paid out. Because we didn't authorize any hiring. If the Conservation Commission wants to hire someone, they do have the authority under the RSA's to hire their own. In that case, without prior approval from the Board of Selectmen, those monies would have to come out of their Conservation Fund monies. So it's kind of an either or. I mean, they shouldn't have been hiring employees for this year. Like, they have it in their budget for 2016, their portion of our budget, I should say. So if that's approved at town meeting, they're all set with the selectmen's approval. Sort of. It's a strange situation.
If they had come to us right out of the gate and discussed it in advance, that might have been a different story, yeah?
That's right.
Yeah.
So how do you want to word that?
Yes, public works tomorrow.
Well, it's in the future, it's not gonna happen. They're,
No,
And I'm sure that we can.
it's, I think the situation has been rectified, they're either hiring someone,
Doesn't make sense.
They have monies in the proposed 2016 budget to pay for
and if that's approved, then it
employee.
wouldn't be an issue.
employees. So like I said, if that's passed, then it's
So,
fine.
but why don't we have public, if it's only being mowed in the fall, which it was only done once this year,
I don't know what their plans are.
Across from the
That
PD.
was their stated plan.
across from the PD, that conservation area.
What?
If you're only mowing it
Ernie's.
once, you could probably handle that.
Ernie's, the old Ernie's.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think they mowed once this year.
Yeah, that was all.
Yeah, so, I mean, if we want, we can mow it more often, don't we?
No,
Well,
they
there's
don't, it's
wildflowers there supposedly.
Yeah, that's.
Black-eyed Susan?
It's a work in progress.
Okay, so you want to mow it once or?
No,
No,
It's
not
their-
mow it all.
it's their,
Right now, half of the property is under their jurisdiction, half of it is still under the selectmen's jurisdiction. Because it hasn't been put in conservation yet.
Oh, okay.
So, but we are giving them the courtesy to decide that for the whole property. So it's not up to us to say to you, go mow the conservation land.
Right.
It's like Buffalo Park is conservation land, so before you mow it, the park commissioners will have to have a conversation with the conservation commission to let them know
right.
what's going on.
Okay.
They may have an opinion on that.
So I think that we can just, should we pay from the conservation, just say labor, there was a discussion of the, on an issue of labor performed,
Which was not approved,
I can just put in
Complicated
parentheses
issue.
after the check issued for labor performed. I can
Yeah.
put in parentheses, which was not approved by the Board of Selectmen.
okay, which is not approved by the,
which, the recent check or the labor? You see what I mean? It's very convoluted.
So we could put in the discussion of the recent labor performed in a check issued,
Right.
which wasn't approved, the labor or the check,
Neither?
neither.
okay?
Well, actually,
So-
when they signed the manifest, they approved the check. But the issue is that a town employee was hired and paid for out of the selectmen's budget that was not authorized by the selectmen. And the key thing here is, it was paid for out of the selectmen's budget. If they had hired somebody and paid them out of their funds, that would be a non-issue. So with that, maybe you can come up with something.
Okay.
All right? Are there any other corrections, additions, concerns? Make a motion that we approve the minutes as corrected.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you have anyone else with you, Chief?
Yeah, we're right down the stairs.
Begin?
Yep.
Chris, I did get your message, and I'm sorry I didn't call you back.
We're all busy.
We can talk later.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Chris.
2 times in a row. Hey, oh, no good for you.
So
I used to do that. I was that guy.
Yeah, gotta care about the town you live in, right?
the chief had asked, the chief was going to bring up an encumbrance issue. I felt that with Joe leaving later tonight to go to the co-op meeting, that the chief, if we can fit him in the next 15 or 20 minutes before Casella comes in, that we're going to give everyone the opportunity to hear what he has to say. Thank you. What do you need, kid?
Can I leave this with you?
Yep.
I apologize. You've seen these before. All the signatures on the front, she was the original list and you're the police chief.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks.
Thank you very much.
Chief, you wanna come up and, I've kind of filled in the board. John should be here any minute, and let me just fill him. Hopefully in here. So go ahead, Luke and, Chris. Come on up. Yeah. We have a very short window of time to talk about this, so, yeah, take your spot.
We just wanted to circle back with the board. We're about that 7-year mark with our weapons, and we've met a couple times on this. Chris, since we met last,
Before we go any further, we are at the 7-year mark? Or over the 7-year mark, or?
the date.
I believe we got our weapons in 2007 in the summer. It could have been,
Closer to 8.
Closer to 8.
Okay.
Today.
Okay.
So, since we met last time, Chris has been doing the qualifications, and throughout the qualifications, he's kind of seeing signs and symptoms indicative of the age of not only the weapon, like the springs, the magazine, right? And so they met with me over the last couple of weeks with some of the results of the qualifications, and they came back and said, Chief, we're kind of at a point with the weapons where we either have to invest in the existing weapons to replace the springs, and they can talk about it a little bit more and answer questions, or to opt to replace them. And then going back, I know Chris did a presentation before the board about what that would look like. Right now, there's a unique opportunity to get basically with a trade for our guns, $150 added to the trade of each weapon would get us into a new one to replace all the springs and parts recommended by the Armorer's Manual and Glock would be about what, Chris, 101? 120?
Around $115 per gun.
115. So less than $50 a weapon, we would be into new ones versus putting springs into old ones. And so I brought Chris and Luke here just to talk about what they saw so they could give the board a snapshot of what they brought to my attention, within the last week or so to get us back before the board.
So why don't you show the board what you tell the board what you told us and.
So with, Chris and I have had a pretty in-depth dialogue over the last few months in regards to our weapons. We've been, for one of those things where as our guns are starting to age, it's like anything, it has wear and tear, and you have replacement requirements that you need to do, and so on and so forth. One of the Achilles heels to these weapons that didn't become apparent until after substantial wear on the weapons is that when the guns were produced, they weren't, I guess, either quite sure or of the adverse effects of putting a weapon light on the firearm. When we got these weapons and with the lights that marry to the weapon, it's obviously the best thing you can do because it frees your hands up, you can have both hands in your gun, and so on and so forth. The unfortunate thing is that Glock couldn't project how that would affect the harmonics of the gun and how it would, over time, cause an issue with the weapon. From the way it was explained to me is that the frame's in some sort of a V, and when you put that weight on the front with the weapon light, it straightens it out, which causes the recoil of the weapon to be faster, and so the springs that are in the magazine can't keep up, and it causes the weapon to cycle improperly, and you can jam, or what's called a short stroke, which means it doesn't go all the way forward, and you have to tap the weapon and you have to re-rack it. Because of those problems, and those are things that Glock admit, like, hey, it is what it is, these are what you need to do to fix that problem. To fix the problem, you need to replace the guide assembly, which is the spring that goes underneath the barrel. And then you also have to replace the magazines because the springs and magazines, number one, over time they start to deteriorate, and also the springs need to be stiffer to force those bullets up faster. With doing mathematics on it, it's, like Chris said, it's going to be about $112, I think, and 50 cents. Okay. To replace those parts, that is something that we would need to do, especially with, over the last few weeks, we've been qualifying everybody. Myself included, I just went yesterday, and I had multiple failures to feed where I had to tap and rack my weapon. Something like that, if you're in the middle of a gunfight, you don't really have that time. That's an action that you want to do at the last resort. You don't want to have that problem. Right now, with the trade-ins that are on our weapon systems, we have currently 40 caliber. We would go to 9mm for many reasons out there in regards to ballistics, the improvement of weapons, so on and so forth. If we were to do that, the new guns are $150 a piece. Because the price on our trade-in on our current weapons are good until the end of the year. Once that quote expires, we're expecting, as well as the gun companies, that the prices are going to drop drastically because there's a huge flood in the market of 40 caliber handguns, because many agencies across the state, across the country, are transitioning to 9mm, as well as the FBI, who basically comes out with all these ballistic reports, all the ins and outs of handguns, that's what they're known for, is actually switching over to 9mm as well. Classically, when we see the FBI do certain things, that's where law enforcement looks to for guidance.
So the guns would cost us $150 a piece, approximately, give or take, with the trade-in. Now, is that with holsters, magazines, frames, and what have you, or is that extra?
So the total breakdown, basically the breakdown I gave you, the first is, it talks about the gun, how much the gun costs.
Mm-hmm.
All this is stuff that we use for the weapons, and then the total price, that's what the total purchase would be, $10,201.30.
And that number divided by 24 is 250, 150.
No, basically, the gun itself costs $403.60.
Yep.
They're gonna give us, I apologize.
251?
251.
Yeah, a gun, so basically it's $153 a gun.
Okay, and then we buy holsters.
Correct.
Okay, so the actual cost of putting a gun on an officer is not $153. It's gonna be $170 or
Well,
$80
well,
or
they
whatever
have-
it is.
What it is,
200.
so, you know,
24, basically.
generally,
25.
we replace equipment as needed currently. So if something breaks, we purchase a new one. When we have new hires, we have to purchase holsters and so on and so forth. Most of our holsters that we do currently have been in the rotation. Like I've had mine since the inception of weapons back 7 years ago. They're starting to have wear and tear. We have one officers that just broke. Magazines, once again, you'll see the price on those. Magazines need to be replaced. So there's a lot of things that it's basically money that we have to pay, yes, up front. However, it's things that we've been replacing over time and taking out of line items and so on and so forth that needs to be, it's like replacing our radios in our cars. At some point, we need to do those things because these have life expectancy.
Okay, I just, and I understand that, I totally do. But to put a gun on an officer, it costs $425. I don't begrudge that being the price, I just want it to be very clear for everybody here.
Absolutely.
And then that it's gonna cost us $425 per officer to replace our weapon.
With the holster.
With the holster, that's all included, and there are, I understand the ammunition itself is less expensive on per
And I
round
think
charge,
that's
right?
mentioned, yes, and so, we'll start to see a savings. The good thing is any ammunition that we currently have, the company that we do our ammunition purchases through, they'll take back any 40 caliber cases that we have and exchange them for 90, plus give us a credit because the ammo is cheaper. Generally, I think $40 to $50 a case is probably what we would save per thousand
And
rounds.
how many cases we go through a year?
It depends on the training we did this year, kind of had to like live by just because we obviously didn't have that much, but we probably went through around 5,000 rounds.
And that would be a yearly amount by and large.
It's basically like a breakdown of, it's 160 rounds for an officer to qualify, but they need to do skill building and practice before that, before and after that. And then they have to do what they call a low light or no night shooting. The academy requires a one day qual, one night qual per year, so that's another 50 rounds, so that just kind of builds up a little bit, so.
And then if you send an officer to the academy, they have to take
1,250 rounds.
1,250 rounds, so you have that expenditure. You have, if anyone has issues with qualifying or, sometimes we have somebody that will qualify, but we want to take them aside and give them some one-on-one time, so that can take up more initiatives.
Or if they don't, because the academy standards, you have to qualify back to back, so basically it's one 30-round course and then another 30-round course, they have to qualify back to back. So if they qualify on what we consider line 1, then on line 2 they don't qualify, now they have to go 3 or 4, exactly back to back, if that makes any sense. So just, consecutive, so they just need more ammo. And this year we did have one person do that, so we had to use more rounds to do that. So I know when I came down here last time, it was there's going to be a lot of ammo kicking around. There's really not a lot of ammo kicking around because of that. It's hard to forecast that if somebody's not going to qualify. Because let's just say there's 5 people that happens to, see more ammo. It's not that they're bad shots, it's just.
What do we have in inventory currently?
Currently, we got one person going to the academy next month, so I think it's going to bring us down to a couple thousand rounds of handgun and around 4,000 rounds of rifle. But obviously, like one of the biggest things, and I know we want to talk about, is obviously is the conflict that's going on, not just in the country but around the world. And it's hard to get ammo. Depending on, I can get ammo cheaper at one place, but it takes 6 months to 2 years to get the ammo, versus paying for a little bit more money than I can get it now. But the more things that go on, obviously, it's the harder the ammo that is to get. I know somebody right now that's waiting. I think he said he's on month 18 right now. Still hasn't seen his ammo. So you never know when we're going to get the ammo. So
And the people that have the state bid from New Hampshire,
just one of the
just one of business.
So now the state bids on the mass.
Advertise our hands.
So is it gonna be a problem getting the 9mm?
Nope, the 9mm is going to be very easy. The FBI just switched to that. Like Luke said, a lot of departments follow what the FBI did. But it also, now keeping our guns, if we were to wait 2 years or a year to trade in our guns, Riley's in New Hampshire, so they won't even take our guns in trade right now because they have so many of those on the market that they're sitting on. They're like, we're not touching them, we're not looking at them, so we can't sell them. Because the prices that you guys see are for law enforcement, the general public can't get them. But even that trade-in price that we're gonna get, they can't even move those.
So we're looking at, just to recap for John, we're looking at a brand-new gun for about $150 with the trade-in,
Just for the gun itself.
just for the gun itself, but then you have to add the holster and everything, so total holster, magazines, lights, everything, it's about $425. But to repair what we have, and that's not including ripped holsters or anything like that, it's about $112.80 to do that,
And that's just
each
for certain
gun.
parts.
and that's just for what we know of the gun right now.
Basically, I went to the Black Armor School, the Big Armor School, and basically they recommend every 3 years or 5,000 rounds, they change out certain parts.
That's $2,700.
The basic price I just gave you of that $112.80 is strictly to do two things. There could be other things that we should replace, and those obviously add up. So I understand it's a lot of money, amount of money, it's just, we're high.
Well, that's 1/3 of what you're asking for new guns, and if we pay out $2,700 now to repair them, next year you're gonna be asking to replace those same guns that we're paying $3,000 to repair. Am I right?
Because with the parts you're replacing, it's kind of like putting tires on a car that you know you're going to need to replace
Right.
like any year or so. And, you know, the weapon has certain things that wear out. The breech of the barrel itself, certain points on the slide going down. And, you know, it's one of those things that I understand we don't use these things every day, and we carry them in cold weather, rainstorms, snowstorms, walking through the woods looking for somebody who's lost their car. So they do take a beating as long as I'm not here. So, you know, they're items that need, you know, I know one of my snaps went bad, and I was chasing after someone and I lost the magazine and popped out. Luckily, I found it, because I went walking back for 2 hours and found it. But, you know, those are the types of things that, as it gets older, it tends to.
Why are you getting 25 magazines and not 24?
Have a spare one?
Wait, 24.
But if you're issuing 24 guns out, you've got no spare.
We don't have 24 police personnel that
Well,
use
we have
them.
22 guns in the field right now. Basically, those two other guns would be replaced, like if somebody's gun broke,
Spares.
or headers forbid,
So
somebody
why
was
the
in a
extra
shooting.
magazine?
That,
Somebody like to shoot a lot of bullets at once?
no, it's just, we're looking for a couple extra magazines to kind of give the guns a little bit longer life. So basically, right now, if you have your gun, you only have those magazines, so they're always breaking, but not necessarily breaking, but bouncing on the ground. It led to your training magazines to try to like give the guns a little bit longer life, the newer guns, so that would prolong the life of the gun.
So what are these magazines for, training?
Some of those, yeah, it would be mostly for training.
So they're not gonna carry magazines?
No, the guns itself come with some magazines.
Oh, okay, I didn't get, I
The
didn't
guns
get that
come
part.
with
Okay,
three.
what do these hold? 17, 18, 20?
17 rounds. Well, it depends on the, basically it breaks down to, full size you're gonna carry 17, and like the mid-size, if that's what you wanna call it, next version down, holds 15 rounds. Basically, that's the first size.
And why the 10 compact frames?
That's it. That is, so, because basically these guns can be tailored to an officer. So if you have bigger hands, I can give you a grip that's got bigger hands versus if somebody has a smaller hand.
The 10 of them?
We may not get 10, but I just wanted to forecast kind of like the worst case. That's the only thing that's worst case. So, because I didn't want to have to come back and say, I asked for 2, I need 10, where I know the max I would need is 10.
And we talked about that, and more than likely finding maybe 2 or 3. Maybe somebody who has a dual role, like somebody like a detective, where the great thing about these guns too is you start to limit, when we talk about parts that wear on our weapons now, like the frame or something like that, the great thing about the SIG is it's modular. So you can take the actual guts of the gun and take that out and put a new plastic blower on it. So if this thing gets chipped or busted, it's junk. Like I'd have to buy a whole new blower part of the gun. Where the way that they built their gun, you can actually take it off as a $30 part, and so you can replace it. But then the other thing too is that the detective goes from working in his uniform or in his suit, and he goes to do undercover work. He can actually put a smaller grip on it, so it's easier to see. So there's multiple benefits to the new age stuff.
This is also the same weapon that the FBI's looking at going to. So obviously it's a gun that's a good quality. I know Honolulu PD just went to it. There's dozens of PD, Guilford PD is using it, Ashland PD is using it. Manchester's in the process of possibly switching to it. So,
Do you anticipate any benefit on the range?
I've already experienced that. There's one person that had, unfortunately this year, had an extremely hard time qualifying on it. I brought in a gun that I showed you guys. So basically my gun, I said, oh, all right, here, close your eyes, here's a different gun. I'm just going to give you something different. And had no problems qualifying with it. So basically, I hate to say it, but I had two of the worst people in our department shoot. I let them shoot their gun, and then I gave them this gun. And it was basically a night and day process. Basically what it is a 40 caliber round. It's a high pressure round, so there's a lot of recoil kicks in your hand. 9mm is a low pressure round, so it's more of a push in your hand versus a snap, if that makes any sense. So it's already
Our
increased.
weapons potentially would be used in close quarters, relatively speaking.
So basically,
Otherwise, you'd have a rifle in your hands.
so basically for me, as a training standpoint, if the people are shooting it better, it's better overall for the town because it decreases our liability because we're putting more bullets where they're supposed to be versus sending them in different places. They basically say one bullet someplace is $1 million, so we have to account for all our rounds. So I can get the officers to account for all the rounds and shoot better, perform better, and I'd rather see it in these guns than the other gun. And I showed it to everybody in the department, how it felt in their hand. Not everybody got to shoot it, but let everybody feel it in their hand, and everybody commented on how much they liked it.
And I can say as a skeptic because I love to watch. That's my personal gun spot. And when Chris brought me to this and showed me the gun, I was like, no. And I shot it. It's a phenomenal shooting handgun. It would be my recommendation, even though I don't block.
I think the chief shoots.
Yeah, I shot it. It shoots incredible. And I think, I can echo what Chris said, for us, it's really more about accuracy. If the round ballistically performs the same as its 40, but people are shooting more accurately with it, then it's kind of a no-brainer. And I think that's why a lot of departments are going back to it. They've made so many changes to that round, it performs like all of the bigger caliber rounds. And it's really about accuracy at the end of the day.
I'm really disappointed that you didn't bring it to us so we could shoot.
I did break it down for you guys to look at.
Yeah, here's a snake, starving guy. Sorry, gotta go.
If we get up on the roof, we can try it.
I want to get the final best
See if
one.
we can hit the arch.
All right, any questions for them while we wrap it up?
Yes, I don't see.
I don't think we're gonna make a decision right now.
No problem. I just want you guys to be informed.
Price is right.
One way or another, we definitely need to make a decision. Obviously, I understand one's more expensive than the other, but we're talking about people's lives, talking about the possibility of making our shooters better. And
At the same time, praying to God you never have to use that weapon.
exactly, pray for the,
And this is the final price, the $10,201.30.
And that's good.
Well, that's the top price.
That's
You said you may eliminate some of
Well, basically the frame.
the frame.
The frame,
That's
right.
not
That
much.
would be
They're only
it.
31.10 a piece, so.
And that price is good, I believe. The first week of January. So we've had it for a while now, so. Basically, this price is something that, when I talked to the guy, he's like, I can't believe you actually were able to get this, It was just trying to beat it down as much as we could on the price, so.
Tim is gonna be talking to us a little bit later about encumbrances, and so we can discuss it then. And
thank you.
we'll let the chief-
What were you
Thank you.
looking to purchase?
There'd be Atlantic Tactical, they're sole source. So in New Hampshire, basically in the Northeast, Atlantic Tactical is the only one providing them.
Oh, that's I just looked at it on
They do, but
That
they
was
don't
the
do
site.
a lot.
Yeah, and I talked to one
You
of
would say
those
like,
guys, he's like.
me.
I saw them down there, they
We
did all the
actually
bricks and
I think they're about
everything.
500 and
He
something.
goes, I can tell you,
Or like
you couldn't get that now.
So
Yeah.
that price we can't even buy, only the department. But Stig only has certain places that sell directly to departments. So you can't go to like Shooters or Riley's or Skip's Gun Shop.
Yeah.
Same with the Lock only has right now a store in Vermont for this area they can buy them from.
That has special prices.
Yeah, gun dealerships do that, they just kind of like limit
Chief, do you have a copy of the,
Sorry, guys. It's our wide hips.
do you have a copy of the handout for us? Chris? Let me get these. Can you give Tim a copy?
Mr. Pearson,
Yes.
is there currently the funds available to be encumbered to purchase those weapons if we were so inclined?
Well, I was going to go through the list. There is money available, but there are a number of different projects that are competing for the monies available. So,
Okay, so,
but yes, the answer is yes. There is money.
so then we talk about what is our priority if we don't have enough to cover all of those things.
I believe we will.
Okay, so then the money exists.
I was going to show. I have reports for you later.
Joe
go
has to
through.
leave and he'd
Well, I
like to
have
make
to
a
leave,
motion.
but I want to make a motion if the money exists.
It
I
does.
think this has to be a priority in our world. I make a motion that we purchase 24-6 P329 millimeter carry with all the accompanying magazines, compact frames, not to exceed 10, and the holsters for a total not to exceed $10,201.30.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
If we approve this, I just want to make it clear, if we approve this right now without talking about the list you have, will something on that list be automatically bumped out?
No, I don't think so. No. I think we'll be.
Wasn't very definitive.
There's
He's
a.
positive he doesn't think so.
Yeah, no, well, no, you'll be fine.
Okay.
All right, any other questions, concerns?
Just don't hold me.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 So the
What did she say?
Yeah.
That's unanimous. So,
Wait, what?
yeah.
Let the record show that
Yeah,
Catherine Dawson voted yes.
Come on.
All in favor?
We said
Unanimous.
unanimous. All right.
Thank you very much. I shall return
Don't go back.
No, I saw that after the co-op. Sorry I can't stay till. I'll be talking. That chair is after
Well,
us,
no.
Chief.
Good night, Joe.
Oh, just add 5, yeah.
Remember, we got the tasers in
Now I want to kick it.
So,
Two fast there.
I want
That way.
we got 47. Okay, but then it's 13.
Chief?
Yeah. Luke, are you ready for the schedule?
Yes, sir.
Come on up.
Rick? And for the record, what's that gentleman's name beside you?
David Allen,
Oh, that's Archie.
Archie Santa Lana, David.
Contacted them?
You guys
Jumping in, sorry. Thank
No
you.
problem.
You can hold out.
This brother from another mother or something, who knows? Don't worry.
All right, next on our agenda would be Casella.
So, because I had
Come on up.
16,000.
Tim, you coming up?
Sure.
You want me up there?
I'm gonna try real hard.
Have you met John?
I will tell you, it's gonna be.
Johnny's out. Public Works Director.
No, Rick. I know Rick.
Yes.
We're making a meeting, a meeting in.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thanks.
Everyone comes in, we'll say happy birthday. Okay. So we have a proposal for
I'll need my,
folks.
Want us to talk about kind of how it's laid out? or-
Yeah,
So it's been, I'm Dave Allen, by the way, I think I've met everybody here before. Archie St. Clair, again,
yeah.
and the Corey Archie operations manager, so this was the guy in Jay, that Johnny was talking to. So the bid you put out was pretty straightforward, basically providing the waste and recycling collection, exactly the way you have it done now, which is, trash every week, and recycling is every other week, split exactly the way it's done now. The second option you asked us to bid was basically the same service, trash weekly, recycling every other week, but instead of doing the recycling the whole town every B week, basically do it all, trash and recycle all on 1 week. In the entire town basically on Tuesday, instead of doing part of the town on Tuesday, part of the town on Thursday. We initially thought there might be some savings there, but when we did the math, it's really the size of the truck that it requires, it actually gets a little bit more expensive, and you can see that in our proposal compared to the way we do it now. We also gave you a third option that you didn't ask for, but we just wanted to make sure you had as many choices as possible. And that was weekly trash, exactly the way you do it now, and weekly recycling. In other words, providing recycling services every week to every household. Right now you have trash every week, and then every other week you get recycling. That third option is trash and recycling every week, we think. We offer that only because we see in other communities that you've already done the hard work, the pay-by-bag program, and you're coded for recycling, and the way to capture the most recycling. Really, the only way to get that next uptick is to go to weekly recycling. So we gave that option. You didn't ask for it, but we wanted you to have it to look at.
Current cost is what, 205, we were 205,000. Two contracts.
Yeah.
We're at 205 between the two contracts now.
Today.
Basically, that's it, it's like a 3% CPI. On the option one, doing it the same way.
So it would actually, if you do the alternative one, picking it up, recycling every week and pay as you throw every week, we're actually adding 100,000 on.
Yeah. Not 100,000, no.
Totals are on the left side.
Oh, okay,
You go from year one, let's use that as compare, year one,
okay,
211 the way you do it now.
right, so it's, all right,
236, so about
Yeah.
$25,000
Yeah.
more to get that weekly recycling if you wanted to go that way.
So one question we had was in terms of option 1 and 2 on the recycling. So it looks like, so every other week is the 101,000, say in year 3. But in order to pick up every other week the entire town on one day, it's 108.
Yeah, so we're talking just recycling.
Yep.
By doing it 2 days a week, every other week, even though we're traveling the town more in that option, we're able to use a less expensive truck to do it with. So by going 1 day a week, every other week, we actually have to put out a bigger truck to get that week's capacity. And we were surprised at our own math. We thought it might be cheaper. Every time we do the math, it's actually more expensive to do it that way.
so it would be cheaper for us to keep the 2 days
As we are now.
as we are now,
That's change.
and then have it,
Yeah, that's your cheapest option.
I don't know if you'll see the return, we
priced it as an option for every week, just because we had the truck situation, and the operation worked out good. So you would get an extra, you know, you'd get recycling every week for an extra 25,000. The question is, you can see the return on recycling. They got a pretty good program right now, which you pay to throw your trash, to drop down and recycle.
Would we see a return on that?
That's the question. We ran it by to see.
But on the third year, it's even less than that, it's 10,000.
Right now, we're marginal on our bag
No,
prices.
26,000, right? You go from
Yeah.
option
Oh, I'm
one to
going,
the back.
I'm sorry, I went to option 2, okay. So it's 26,000, so would we actually see the return on that, Tim?
I mean, we would have to raise our bag prices.
To
We're
see the
marginal
return.
as it is right now. Yeah, I'm looking at that currently, that it's really touch and go.
But I-
And it's partly the success of the.
I do hear from the, go ahead.
City of Concord is running into the same problem, that the recycling is so good that the bags are not covering the program anymore because there's less trash bags being bought, so they're finding themselves raising the price of the bag to cover the part of the program or the whole program, so that you're seeing that success is hurting them
Right.
financially, so they're working on where you got to raise the price of the bag to cover the program, it's the only way out.
When I talk to residents, when it first started, there were a lot of, hurdles to go over.
Always is.
Always is, right, it's human nature. But when you talk to residents now, and they say, how do you like the program now? Their biggest complaint is they don't have enough space now to do recyclables. So
In the car?
In the car.
Every
And
week.
so it's like they've gone to looking at how much they can save in the bags, not putting it in the bags, putting it into recycling, that they overfill the recycling. And, I mean, I'm in the same situation. I have 2 at my house with a tenant, and we're well over that. And we used to have 6 barrels of trash a week. Now we have 1. The rest is recycled. So, I mean, would it benefit a lot? I mean, a lot of people would be happy if we could do that. Go every week with the recycling, because it would be filled.
But you can use, they will take, if you take a regular garbage can and recycle it, let's say you put all your bottles and cans in that, they'll take that.
Yeah. Well,
I've seen them take that.
But you still need a space for that. You still need a space to, every 2 weeks, you know what I'm saying?
The storage.
Can't relate.
Storage.
In the house, yeah.
I mean,
Garage.
right, exactly, garage, but you can't relate because you've got space. But it's hard for us because we don't. Particularly if you have,
But they also have the alternative to bring it down to, down the garage,
not anymore.
2 days a week. We still have the recycle bin.
Well, there is the one recycling container. It's there primarily for pest escrow. For people to bring down their pay-as-you-throw.
Where'd you move it to?
The recycling bin?
Yeah.
It's still in the same spot. The recycling in the,
Pay-as-you-throw, yeah.
It's the big bins you push out of the way.
the big bins are gone, with the exception of the wood dumpster.
So the big cardboard bin is gone, right?
No, the wood dumpster, you can still put it in, onto the same recycling bin.
There used to be some roll-offs there, and we switched that over to regular commercial cans.
Well, that's what I was thinking of, the roll-off, and you just did the regular, that's what
Yeah.
I was looking for the big trailer type.
Oh, yeah, 30 yards.
Yeah.
Question. Alternate 3, trashes entire town every Tuesday? Am I reading that note correct?
Yeah, that would be done in one day. Both of
And
them.
then recycle.
Every Tuesday,
Every
one day.
Tuesday.
Well, if it's cheaper for us to keep the trash on the current route, 116 versus 130 on year 1,
What would the option if you had 2 days? An option?
can we mix the trash on that and then do the recycling?
I understand what you're saying. No, so and I appreciate what you're asking is, can you kind of pick from menu 1 and, each piece of the menu. For us, it's really about having the truck available, right, and having it fit in that time slot during the week. So short answer is no.
Are you running 1 or 2 trucks?
So under option, under the alternate bid, we would
Yeah.
run completely different kinds of trucks. that
The
would
one
run-
truck that hauls both, or?
Yes, and it would be two trucks, split bodies.
Yeah.
And they would be available those days
Yeah.
versus the first option, it's one with split bodies, and then on the odd week, it's the side loader, okay?
All right.
Yeah, a fair question, though.
Yeah.
Any questions, Chris? You just answered the question. So it looks like the way we have it now, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Changes.
The other terms, are there any other major terms changes? And we're not going to participate in revenue, but.
No, actually, most of the towns we're bidding currently, we're putting a formula, and there's a cost of $20 a ton. We did, you don't have huge tonnage, and we locked it in before we did that, but right now, the markets are absolutely horrible in recycling. Read about China suffering everybody, and the market's going down, but you have no liability. There won't be any upside, but there is gonna be any upside in the next couple of
So
years.
there's no cost per ton?
No, it's in that number, which, that we just did one this morning, and the prices went from $22 to $30 charge at Londonderry.
Per ton.
Yeah, charges, so pretty consistent right now with the markets are awful.
I think the only change, and it's minor, is the additional carts. Right, I think we proposed here that any additional carts that we buy, right now, we provide them, right? So any additional, if we damage them, they're on us, right? And that happens, right? They end up in the hopper once in a while, but additional ones, we would ask you to get them.
That's what you're missing too.
It happens. Not all of them, but it does happen.
But what happens when we have, like in the multifamilies that are recycling, they leave and, some people disappear and people are calling us for new homes and they wanna have new ones, so we have to pay for it, in?
I don't know, I guess we haven't really talked through that. I think we can certainly, how does it work now, Rick?
Right now, we just give them whatever
They provide them?
How many have you put on that since you've been?
We don't, I would.
In the last, how long?
We just let them.
Last year or so.
Oh, I don't know if in the last year, we've only been in 3 months.
So, and I don't know,
Probably not many.
I would imagine
More
we
than
would put
we-
some number on it, that everyone talks
Yeah.
there, I mean, please don't hold me to this, I'll say it's 25, and say, hey, for, the first 25, that's part of the deal, but have some limit to that number of free ones, so that we're, over a 3-year period of time.
We see it every day, we go into another town and they have town.
I was thinking more 10.
Different states. Yeah, good deal, they're not.
I was thinking
We
30.
had one of those.
Oh, so you get phone calls, every time the college kids move back on, we get phone calls from Connecticut to pick up the trash all the time. The college kids love totes, they're great to move out of the dorm with.
It's safe to say 25 a year, but that's.
So, yeah, 25 a year.
Yeah, that should be it. How many building permits do you issue in a year,
Somewhere around, about 40?
40.
But they're not all
I don't mean building permits, I mean new occupancies.
new residences.
Can be 25.
No.
No, it's probably the 10 to 20 range.
Well, we have the big development up on School Street. He's gonna be making that bigger, isn't he?
I was gonna say, you have to back up a little bit because we
And
have
then
a
Caleb Hill.
home park on School Street that's
It's
Yeah.
developing.
refaced itself, and more homes go in there all the time.
Yeah.
And there are large tracts of land where somebody could put in
Yeah.
housing development.
What if you something like 25 and then the new development?
30 is probably-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Third
We're
is probably-
fine. Again,
Got my number.
we'll work with it, whatever's fair, obviously, I know we gotta agree with writing, but when you ask about terms, that's the only thing we'd like to put a little finer definition on.
And just, you probably said this already, but, because we've told people like that they have a lot of cardboard and things like that that they can't fit into their bin, if they bundle it up and
Just set it next to them.
So
They
it's
take
very-
it from my yard all the time.
Once it's not raining.
Well, no, even stuff that's been rained on, they take it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you put cardboard drive, nothing?
We really appreciate
As we
it,
know
but
that
No, we always
if
have,
it's
we
out
always
there,
have
we'll
the
take it.
cans.
We'll take it.
You didn't have recycling.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you started this.
It helps with
started
house,
this-
right, exactly, right, it
A lot
helps,
of
it
towns,
helps with
they have
house.
overflow.
It's tough job, it's raining, it's going.
Yeah.
It says recycling.
But they do it with both, they'll take the dry or
Yeah.
it's been wet.
Just put recycling for the overflow. She had mentioned, she fills them up, and there's no sense in, I just don't see the return on value going every week. It's $25,000 more, you know, they need those weapons more than than that, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at that, you say, 25 grand, how much more recycling will you get every week? I think we'll get more, but I don't think it's gonna cover $25,000. So I wouldn't propose that, but just let people know if they're full every other week, then use another container. I mean, you have some that have storage issues, but we do have the overflow or the.
So, I'm just curious how that works for your truck, because you know that they lift those mechanisms, so when you have, let's say, just a regular galvanized garbage can,
Just like we do the trash.
They come out and
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not the automated one-armed bandits servicing your town, so there's still a guy wheeling it up to the back of the truck. And often with recycling, 9 times out of 10 it's light enough, he doesn't even use the mechanism. It's easier for him to kind of just hook it and push it. You know, and the rubbish barrels, he's chucking.
We still have the 10% rule kind of on the trash versus recycling, the purity of the recycling.
Oh, yeah, we're not problem. If we kind of stay on that now because
Oh, I'm sure
that's
you do.
amounted, at our place in Boston, that's amounted to a big problem because of the cost of it. So if we see some contamination, we'll let you know that that guy, you know, he doesn't want to buy the bag. And it does happen in pay-as-you-throw towns, that people try to get rid of stuff that shouldn't because they don't want to pay for the bag. But if we see that, we'll let you know, we'll work on it together.
Okay, it hasn't been a problem.
I don't think we've seen
No, and you would know, because typically, I don't know, if you have seen it, but we have yellow stickers.
Yeah.
So if there's a violation of.
I got a yellow sticker on mine.
You got a little sticker?
I did.
Bad.
It said, it said something about betting, but there was, I can tell you right now, there was no betting in there.
No.
How's your
Oh,
town?
betting, I mean, betting, like what?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I bet.
Betting.
There's probably a lot of that in there. But betting, you know, fabric or something like that, no, there's none of that at all. So,
Because our pay-as-you-throw.
and I didn't understand why that was there. It's usually, it's probably filled with Diet Coke cans or something like that. One for Diet Coke cans and the rest for cardboard. None. Diet Coke cans.
Those go down to the town hall.
Peter's house.
Why is it you don't collect styrofoam? There is a place, there are places where you can, they like it to be clean.
Yeah, it's a
Polystyrene?
yeah, it's kind of like another one of the plastic grocery bags, right?
Yeah.
They're
Those
so,
might next.
they're so expensive. They can be recycled, right? Anything can be recycled. It's how much do you want to pay? And the polystyrene, or styrofoam, right? So other polystyrenes you can recycle. Styrofoam particularly, there are, I think, 2 places in the country that actually recycle it. And the last time we did the math, it's thousands of dollars per ton. Mostly because you truck tons, right? And
That's huge.
the volume, it's so.
There's no waste.
Yeah.
On
It'd
a
be
per,
full.
on a per ton basis, you're traveling cross country with a ton.
Yeah.
It's prohibitively expensive for us. The grocery bags are very similar. Again, if there's still always going to be materials there. If you keep them separate, they're recyclable if you're willing to go to market, and it's the same issue with the bags. In zero sort, all the additional recycling you get out of zero sort, out of the ease of putting it together, a lot of that comes from the automation of the sorting process, right? It's going down these conveyors. Those plastic bags don't get along very well with conveyors and what we call these sorting knives. They get caught up and wrapped around them. So, yes, they're recyclable, but we're not able to do it cost effectively.
I was told if they were tied in a knot, that they wouldn't cause a problem with grocery bags.
You wouldn't have been told by someone that makes those plastic bags and puts a little recycling thing. Because
I use them for trash bags, so they go out in my purple bag.
Yeah, that's really the
And
best
then I
use
have
for
my
it.
own, I mean, so I don't generate many of them. But the other question is, why don't you take broken glass?
Just for the safety of the people that have to handle it. So much of the material
Oh, I
is,
thought it was all in my machine.
well, we're handling it at the curb, and then it gets, so.
See, I hate putting it in my plastic bag because
Yeah.
they're gonna touch that. I like putting it in the bin because they're not gonna touch it.
2 or 3 times down the sorting line, as automated as our facilities get, I encourage you, there's a little website called zerosort.com, there's a little video. there's still people that are on that
150
assembly
people.
line. Yeah.
Still, although everything's automated, 150 people that work in our Boston facility where most of our material goes.
Yeah.
And it does, it's automated, but that's state of the art, it still has 150 people working.
That's the question I think I'm asked most.
With the glass.
Yes, if I could put in a bottle, because, you know, they liken it okay, and then it goes out and dumps in there, and it must break when it gets in the truck. Why can't I put broken glass in there?
So there is another answer to that. The primary answer is the same. The secondary answer is the glass that you window cleaning is very good for the glass that you follow, so the bottle is. And the ability to separate that is impossible once it's broken down. So, you know, the solution of pollution is pollution, right? We can tolerate a certain amount of contamination. You kind of like that one. I like it.
I don't like
I say
that
it every
one.
chance I get.
It's like I'm thinking of anybody dump their sewer in the lake.
But we try to keep that, contamination as diluted as possible.
Of all your towns, do most of them do the commingled?
What we, similar to what you do?
Yeah,
Yes.
and you also do the municipal solid waste?
So, yeah.
Okay, so
in
that's
the
the, pretty much
That's
the
a
norm?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very few are doing dual stream anyway, just since that focus plant closed, there's just no place to bring dual stream, so some people still pick it up dual stream, and then they bring it to us in single stream.
And then how many of these communities use, sell stickers? I mean, where it's
Like
instead of
the
doing
paper bag.
the paper bag, that they sell stickers?
Little problem that we're finding some towns, they're finding people duplicating the stickers and not buying it.
Color photocopiers are really changed.
Massachusetts has a lot of sticker programs, you know, they do it, they leave it on the container, on the trash can, and put tags in it, and try to leave it on there week after week after week, so you're.
Didn't Manchester have a trouble with that, that was initially what they went to, was the stickers, and then they went to the bags because they had a problem with that?
A lot of them, they can't duplicate a bag or it's too much trouble, but duplicating that sticker, you just throw them, you go to Home Depot, and this was $3 a piece over, you know, and then they give them to brothers and cousins.
And nobody, as far as you know, has gone back to just regular, solid waste?
Mandatory pickup.
Anybody that's made a change to pay by bag, I've never heard of anyone going back.
It's like when you're out of tax, Joyce, they never take it back.
Yeah,
It's
right.
there for life.
Well, I would say it's so
I
successful.
don't remember which one it was, because there was one town that didn't go back.
What was
I
it?
don't remember, yeah, but I've got a question. When we were talking about volume, I think I know the answer to this because we've talked about this before, but so the contract that we've always had in the past, where we had a lot more volume, because it was all solid waste, it was all paid, you know, curbside collection. You know, basically, we were in the pay-as-you-throw column, you know, for that sort of thing. And, you know, the prices increased, you know, with contracts, but not a huge amount. And so here we are, you know, we basically are paying what would look like almost on the scale of what we've been paying for solid, you know, everything, when it was all solid waste. So what I'm trying to understand is, you know, as we have a lot less volume, pay-as-you-throw, how is it that that there wouldn't be less cost in picking that up? And is it the trucking down to?
Well, the truck still goes to every house, it might not pick up much or picks up less. But the big thing is when we price this, if we look at the commodities market, when we started doing business with you guys, initially, the ACR, which is the average commodity revenue, was like $125, and the processing cost was $75, so it was a plus $50. And in some cases, some contracts have, you split some of that, yeah, 50/50, 25/75, whatever it was. But since that time, in like a year and a half, the markets are to a we charge minus $20 to $30. So it went from plus 125 to minus 20, 25. So that equals up when you take that tonnage times $100-something a ton. It really takes into the number. When we priced it, if we look at the, we had an offer to you for an extension a couple of years back, and then we looked at that and oh my God, that's good thing we didn't get that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But I guess what I'm talking about is the solid waste itself, the pay-as-you-throw, the actual, not the recycling, but the fact that we're, you know, we've got less that we're picking up.
That disposal isn't in here, right?
We pay the disposal, right?
Right.
Yeah, so.
This is just your pickup and also labor in the truck. They're still running the truck and the crew around.
Yeah. Your disposal should have dropped significantly, right?
Well, yes, yeah, but what I'm looking at is, you're picking up less, you're still having to drive to every house, but you're picking up less. and
Right, still one
presumably-
truckload. I mean, it's probably a little less, but like we said, between that eating up that commodity revenue going backwards is eating up any savings that we saw.
It would be nice if we could completely compartmentalize trash and recycling.
Okay,
And the way you did it, you asked for that, but in our business, it's really hard. It's like trying to pull the cost of the engine out of a new car you just bought. They're tied together. So to Archie's point, when recycling values, we're subsidizing the other stuff. And as those, you know, as those costs went down slightly because of the volume, the subsidy went down even further.
Well, let me rephrase the question then. Let's say the town were to do away with the recycling program.
Yep.
And everything were curbside collection. So would we be somewhat looking in the range of the column one pay as you throw? And because what I'm talking
on
about.
one truck, good point. If it could fit on one truck, possibly, yeah. If it could fit, the thing is, once you get over 11 or 12 ton, and then you go to a second truck and come back for a second load, then it takes away that.
Okay.
Yeah, but numbers, when you really look at the numbers today on recycling, it's questionable.
Right,
People can raise the question, you know, but I think we've gone that way. I don't see anybody going backwards, but it is.
I think it's unlikely. I was just trying to understand from a
No.
volume perspective and how we look at, because I'm sure we'll get questions about this in terms of the costs and what it was and what it is now, but there's less being picked up. And that's
Well, we see a lot of times, you say, okay, when we go to the side of the road and say, there's 2 bags there, the bags there might have been 50 pounds there before you had to cycle 25 and 25. And now there's 25 pounds, you know, there's 10 pounds in each one. You're still going to the curb, still picking it up. There's less of it, but if the truck holds, you're still going to the same curb, picking up those 2 bags, might be half as heavy as they used to be, and you got a 50% recycling program. And you put it in there, but now we're sending the whole second truck out to the recycling part of it, so you're gonna have those extra costs, because you can't put it all.
Oh, sure. No, I'm just looking at the pay as you throw side. I guess I was sort of expecting pay as you throw would look less expensive when we were anticipating. But no, I think I understand your answer, and I appreciate it.
All set?
Yeah.
So, so was the format of the new form, was that clear?
Yeah, very
Okay,
straightforward.
all right.
We probably made it cloudy by adding that alternative, but.
Yeah, we just saw it, it kind of stuck out, said, geez, we could, for 25 grand, we could give them every week, but small town, I don't know. I wouldn't tell you, it's the latest grade, it's gonna save you money, but that's not because of the deal like we had. It doesn't work.
Huh?
So, I tell you up front, I don't see that. Although we've got 25 grand revenue, we're gonna have 25 grand. So,
All right, great. So I guess we'll get back to them.
Yep. So we're gonna add that you're gonna use the first 30, yeah. Is that what
Yeah,
the? 30
the
containers.
first 30, yep, if that seems fair, yeah.
Doesn't matter if they're large or small.
And then you're gonna have
No, I
some
don't
done
think it
with
matters.
the,
30 per year.
Yeah, per year, thank you.
Yep, hopefully we'll have that much growth.
Yeah.
and then you have, if there's a new development that comes into brand new.
I don't want that much growth.
You don't want that.
No.
Once you get a school budget to go up more than it already
Yeah,
is.
unless you want a retirement
More commercial growth.
community. right?
Yeah, the wrinkle parts.
Yeah.
All right, so we can.
Those are okay.
I'm getting a little too close to home.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you on, rest of the.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you for coming in and, much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Thanks for
You remember where it came from?
Was it Jane? Jane, maybe?
She was probably around when it was taken.
Jane.
Wasn't planning on. She took it. Jane took that picture.
Last week.
Thank you, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for coming. Good night. I'm here.
You got the start.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
We'll go something grab it.
In the morning.
So let the record show that any styrofoam or
Chief
plastic
first.
market basket bag go to the cabinet.
Then you.
She's gonna take care
She'll
of
be
it.
using. What? Okay.
Sending you all the bags and styrofoam.
Styrofoam also creates just a big mess.
It's interesting stuff, so it's
Floats all over the place.
Luke, you ready? Luke?
Any issues, I'll keep it.
Yeah, I hope he stays.
Yeah, we will. You've been with us a long time, Chief. Take it.
Okay. Okay. So the chief is going to be, Rich's schedule.
Still?
So it's in there, it's kind of like when we cancel it.
Well, we should do it as soon as you can. That's pretty
Decorate.
So, yeah, put a rest.
What happened to the little Santa
We just did that. Oh, the front lobby.
So
Oh.
it's kind of like, put it on the,
I got it.
put it on the.
Boy, it was so cool.
It's in the last. He quoted a couple other things too, like, the battery on the something falls on the phone. So I just, while there, Paul was there, he quoted. So it's just kind of, it'll be next year.
Okay.
So, thank you for speaking in. So, the last time we met, the majority of the conversation was kind of around the schedule, what would give us the best coverage, and, what would cover the busiest times of the day. So, we're kind of a unique town that our traffic volume starts to creep up around 10 or 11 in the morning, and by 4 in the afternoon to 6 p.m. is where we see the surge of traffic in town. So our population correspondingly swells up somewhere between 4 and 7 is where the most amount of people in town, the most amount of traffic. And so we've been kind of going back and forth with the schedule and trying to come up with what's the best schedule we could possibly put up with, especially being, with one officer in the academy and one out injured. And so, at the last meeting, we had just finished up a 3-month trial of 312s. And Coco Canal brought in all the positives at that meeting. But we were still struggling beating down those two spots of how to get the most coverage from it. So since then, I've had the captain work on a 410 schedule. And in the meantime, Coco Canal did some modifications to the 312 and then met with me since that last meeting, asked me to reconsider. And then one officer who represents patrolling is here tonight, Officer Trott, came to me and asked me to reconsider as well, and if I could reconsider, to consider holding off a while till they get the child care issues at home kind of squared away and ask for some more time. But when he talked to me, he really expressed just a strong concern that the 12-hour shifts while we were on them lose morale, lose productivity, and officers were coming in refreshed after their days off and just getting more work done and better work, and complaints went down. And so they kind of re-emphasized from the patrol's perspective, not a supervisor perspective, that they felt like it was really doing a lot for the department. So I met with Coco Canal and I said, if you can come up with some better coverage with the people we have, and then show me how it's gonna improve when, Officer, Murray comes out of the academy, and then we get our injured officer back. And so tonight we brought kind of an example of that, showed it to me earlier today, and so he asked if he could come back before. And, so, do you want to?
Sure.
And he can kind of explain what the coverage looks like and answer any questions. And,
Sorry, I got big hips there. Yes.
Can I take one? You should.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you very much for letting me present to folks first. This one here, what the chief said, taking a chance to look at our call volume. We were able to pull a substantial amount of stats from last year as well as this year to take a look at where our majority of our call volume is. It was, after speaking with the chief, it seemed like the issue at hand was ensuring that the supervisory coverage was, to the best of our abilities, the best coverage for both the town and the agency in this time where we're down a supervisory position. I just want to, I'll just point out the layout to you folks. So at the top, obviously, you have the supervisor shifts. At the bottom, you have the 6 current shifts that we currently work. And then if you go to the second page, which I'll point out again, that is a projected schedule pending once we get the 7th officer out of the academy. And I'll go into depth in regards to the benefits of that schedule. So what we were able to do was speaking with Corporal Henry and I, until Corporal Ashburn gets back, we took a look at the numbers as far as what our majority of our calls that are coming in, the majority of our arrests and everything else. We actually printed out a breakdown, and all the numbers from both last year and this year point to the fact that Monday through Sunday, the general portion of our calls as well as arrests and incident reports happen between the hours of 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. You'll see that under supervisory shifts, that's where we decided to put the supervisor hours. The reason for that is to cover the majority of the hours during those calls at our time when we're down an officer, and as well as providing the best protection that we can to the town, make sure we're there for the officers. The other positive to that is that Monday through Friday, when the other administrative employees are there, sergeant captain are busy with their duties and stuff like that. It's difficult for them to be able to go out and supervise and provide functional patrol supervisors when they have their additional duties. And with some of the things that they're trying to work on, it's difficult for them to get 2 minutes into a project and then have to leave and go and back up an officer in a car accident or so on and so forth. The current schedule, as you look at it, shows that we work until we get the 7th officer out. We've put the 2 4-hour blocks married together, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays for patrol, and then Thursdays for the supervisors. And what that is doing is giving that additional car for the time being until we get that 7th shift. If you shift to page 2, and you see the projected schedule, that would go into effect in May. At that point, you'll see that the 4-hour blocks will now be placed one on each day. And the reasoning for that is once we have that 7th shift, we'll be able to use those 4-hour blocks and strategically place them in areas where there are high traffic times, like when the school gets out, if there's parades, additional coverage if we have a concerned citizen who says, hey, at 6 p.m. at night to 8 p.m., we're always having vehicles speeding by on Silver Lake Road. I can then adjust the officers' schedules and have them make sure that they hit that street during that day and that time, or so on and so forth. The other benefit to it is I know that some people have expressed, the idea that it's easy for someone to take a 4-hour block off. Well, the benefit to that schedule is once we get to that point, if they take a 4-hour block off, I don't have to fill with overtime because they're an additional traffic car that's strictly out there for enforcement. If it's a day here and there, it's not going to affect us. as well as if somebody else takes the, another shift off, I'll be able to use that 4 hours and strategically place it as to offset some of this time during that shift. With speaking with the officers, with looking at the numbers, our productivity is up, our arrests are up, our traffic offenses are up. The officers are doing a great job, they're out there, they're working hard, and to change the schedule now, I think would be damaging to the morale of the department. We're going in a great direction, and me, both personally and professionally as a supervisor, I want to see something like that happen to the officers. The other thing is with working with the chief and identifying some of the issues that are with the TENS, it doesn't provide the coverage that this does. So this schedule will allow the supervisors, for us as corporals, to continue to do our job, to provide the coverage to the town during the majority of the hours when most people are here in town, and it'll also allow the administrative personnel to continue to do their job.
So my question now to you, Chief, is that, thank you, Luke, is that what happens now on a weekend where it's just Luke and Steve? What happens now if one of them decide to take the paid time off for the weekend?
Sure, so there's a couple options there. If we knew in advance, the two corporals could swap their days so that one is now gonna be off that weekend if they needed to go away. The other option is,
We are now red, and the time being way later than it should be, 10 minutes after 10. I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public as it pertains to personnel permanently, and as it pertains to legal matters until such time as those matters might be resolved.
All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Amen. Non-debatable.
It's a non-debatable motion.